I did a video a little bit over a week ago about a report I found concerning the EV strategy of the federal government in order to fulfill President Biden's direction concerning the electrification of the federal fleet, which was a little bit dated. It was data from 2020. The report was dated 2021, but it was data from 2020, and the number of EV models was kind of limited back then, mostly Tesla and then Nissan Leaf and a few others, Chevy Bolt. But just this past week, the White House released something called a fact sheet, and obviously what they're trying to do is put a political spin on the adoption of electric vehicles, so they can claim that they had leadership in the area. And my personal opinion is just market factors that are driving EV adoption right now. But the federal government did have a part to play with the infrastructure bill. One thing that is becoming very clear, at least in the state of California, that public charging infrastructure is a barrier to EV adoption. EV adoption has skyrocketed in California, and a combination of dealers providing credits for free charging at public infrastructure and a high adoption rate is causing some serious strain in California. I just watched a video by Out of Spec Reviews where a whole supercharger, Tesla supercharger, was down. Something like 18 chargers were all down, and there was an Electrify America station immediately adjacent. Two of those were down, and it was causing a great deal of strain for the people pulling in trying to get a charge. Apparently also all the people showing up with free credits for charging at Electrify America through Volkswagen is also causing a strain. People aren't charging at home. They're just going to the free chargers and burning up their 3 years of free charging at Electrify America. Reason Volkswagen's doing that is because they own Electrify America, and they can help boost their numbers by providing free charging at Electrify America. But what it's causing is people just don't want to charge at home. They go to the free chargers and charge there for free. That makes sense. But then those chargers are not available for people who are trying to do road trips. So it's causing a lot of strain. So the Biden administration did spearhead federal funding for the expansion of electric vehicle charging infrastructure. And this fact sheet covers a great deal of that, so I thought I'd go over it. Political spin aside, billions of dollars for distribution to install DC fast chargers for electric vehicle road trips is something that they can absolutely claim that they had no small part in. Here we're talking about the additional public chargers, 130,000 currently, and what the plan is. Today's actions include partnerships with the Department of Transportation and the Department of Energy in order to finalize the standards. And it goes on to cover what those standards are. They're trying to make it a seamless experience similar to what happens for a citizen in the country of Norway to charge. And so they're trying to come up with a framework for doing so. The new Joint Office of Energy Transportation released notice intent to issue funding opportunities for its Ride and Drive Electric Research Development Program. I don't really understand what they're saying there. A lot of this is government mumbo jumbo, where as professional politicians, they're trying to spin facts in order to bolster potential votes come the next election. That's really the main purpose of a politician, whether they say so or not. Obviously, that's a blanket statement, and politicians have varying levels of civic duty. And I think President Biden might be a little bit more so than not. He seems to be a good guy. And there's also this blurb down here about manufacturing, which I'll go over as well. So here's where they're talking about the concept of trying to make public charging accessible, reliable, convenient for everyone. Feel free to pause and read through it. There's the National Electric Vehicle Infrastructure Program, NEVI, $5 billion to create a coast-to-coast network of electric vehicle chargers on major highways that support long-distance trips. So what they're talking about there is not a means for providing charging for people in municipalities who might not have a garage or a home in order to charge, and they live in a multi-tenant dwelling. These are road trippers. So that's what this is targeting. A little bit unfortunate because I think they should broaden the scope and just make it installation of DC fast chargers throughout the United States, because a lot of people who live in apartments or townhomes and don't have access to garages in order to charge their electric vehicles need to rely on public infrastructure for DC fast charging in order to own an electric vehicle. And if we're just hugging the interstates, that kind of leaves those people mostly out of the equation. And okay, so let's go on. This is the goal. Charging is predictable, reliable. Chargers are working when drivers need them. Good luck. Anyone who owns a non-Tesla is going to be laughing with me here on this one, but apparently that's the goal. And I think they're going to find a way of enforcing it, because they say requiring a 97% uptime. So apparently in order to receive the funds, you're going to have to be able to demonstrate a 97% uptime, which I don't know. I can get in the weeds in that one, but statistics are statistics. And easily find a charger. I think that's attainable. And you don't have to use multiple apps. So apparently they're going to try to coalesce the API, signaling among apps in order for one app to use another app, I'm guessing, because they're probably not going to have like a federal app that works on each one of these things. They're probably going to just make it easy for integration between the apps is probably going to be what this goal pans out to be. And then support drivers' needs well into the future, meaning they're talking about plug and charge, but I think also there's going to be faster chargers needed, 350 kilowatts. And this is where the meat of the announcement started to get publicity. Tesla has built the largest DC fast charging network in the United States. The problem is that it could only be used with Teslas, so all non-Teslas can't use the superchargers. It was similar in Europe, but then they opened it up, and many Tesla superchargers are what they call public chargers, which non-Tesla vehicles can charge at. And in Europe, there's a single connector type, which is a CCS2. For both Teslas and non-Teslas, so they don't have to worry. But here, Tesla is going to be retrofitting their superchargers with a CCS adapter on select chargers. And the thought is that although they're saying they're going to do 7,500, likely what's going to happen is they're going to retrofit maybe a third, maybe 20%, maybe 10% of the existing chargers with what they call the Magic Dock, which allows for the release of a CCS connector if you're a CCS compatible car. And if you're a Tesla car, it just doesn't release the connector. It's kind of a slick solution. And then all new Tesla superchargers will have the Magic Dock included. That's kind of the thought of what's going to be happening here. So if you have a supercharger near you, it's going to be unlikely that you'll have a Magic Dock added. It's likely just going to be at new supercharger locations. And Tesla says they're going to double the number of supercharger locations in the next 18 months. Hertz, which I just recently rented a Tesla Model 3 from, is going to be building out a DC fast charger network, but they're going to be concentrating in locations where they have fleets of EVs that need to be recharged, and also allow their customers who are renting Tesla Model 3s in order to recharge as well. Pilot And Flying J is allowing General Motors to build out their Ultium Charge 360 network using EVgo hardware and software. The pilot has to pay the electricity, from what I understand, but they gain the additional foot traffic. So if you're charging an electric vehicle, having a convenience store close by is nice, but it's nice for the convenience store because the electric car is going to be stuck there for 20 minutes, 30 minutes, whatever, and you've got a captive customer, which is going to browse your merchandise. So it's good for Pilot, and it's good for General Motors. Right now, the way it looks, this network, the Ultium Charge 360 network, can potentially rival the Tesla Supercharger network if it's done right. We'll see. And then TA and Electrify America have partnered together to do something similar. So if you're on an interstate road trip and you stop at one of these truck stops, either the TA Travel Center or the Pilot Flying J locations, conceivably by 2025, all these things will be built out because it's going to take a couple of years. I've been watching the Pilot Flying J locations, and so far I haven't seen a single one actually been put in the ground. It's supposed to be occurring this year, and it's already pushing the end of February, and I haven't seen the first one yet. Mercedes and ChargePoint are also building out a large network. Mentions Electrify America, but they're just going to be continuing on doing what they're doing. So Mercedes-Benz announced something similar to General Motors, building a DC fast charging network off Mercedes-Benz properties throughout the United States and other parts of North America using ChargePoint hardware. And this ChargePoint Volvo Cars Starbucks one just below there is talking about a corridor that Volvo is helping finance, putting DC fast chargers just on one corridor between Seattle and Denver. There's really not much news there. General Motors is helping push level 2 charging out into communities. That will be helpful. They say 40,000, and the plant is based in Michigan, which will, even though Flow is a Canadian company, the plant that's actually manufacturing these level 2 chargers is based in Michigan, and this could be very helpful as well. And then they start talking about the manufacturing boom. So how this is able to be claimed as a political victory for the Biden administration, I have a very difficult time understanding, because this was all in progress anyway. There was federal legislation which encouraged manufacturing within the United States, so there are those aspects of the manufacturing boom which I guess could be credited to government regulation. But by and large, the adoption of electric vehicles has been driven by market factors, and all these investments by private companies have already been in progress, regardless of who's in the White House. Let's just go down here. FreeWire is kind of interesting. They're the ones who are able to deploy DC fast chargers that negate surge pricing from utilities. If you go over a certain amount of consumption in your location, the utility hits you with a higher rate, which DC fast charging locations are always susceptible for. And FreeWire has a way of banking energy into batteries to prevent surge pricing for people who are hosting DC fast chargers, which is a pretty cool solution. And it also provides battery backup should utility power fail for whatever reason. You could still get a charge for a duration at a FreeWire location. So it's pretty cool technology, but they're more expensive, obviously, because of the battery technology. And ABB and Siemens are obviously in the game. Let's see what they say Siemens is doing. All right, so basically nothing. They're just continuing on with their business, and Biden administration is claiming victory in their leadership accordingly. Flow, this is the one that was doing the 40,000 via a General Motors partnership. So all in all, although there's a political spin here, there was an infusion in cash in order to accelerate installation of DC fast chargers throughout the United States, which is encouraging. I'm going to link in the description the video of the chaos that happened in California by Out of Spec Reviews, where the supercharger was offline and two of the Electrify America, because he goes into depth the problem in California concerning public chargers and having $7 billion of investment from the federal government in order to help solve that problem and keep it from happening in other states as EV adoption accelerates is definitely going to be welcome. So we could argue the details of the rest of this, but the big story here is that Biden administration did provide leadership for the infrastructure plan and has also helped negotiate Tesla to open up their North American supercharger network for CCS vehicles.